What you perceive externally is another opportunity to shift your perspective within. The observation is a reflection of the observer. If you're seeing disharmony, then there's disharmony within. Shift your perspective beyond body consciousness to reconnect with your higher self. If you recognize your spirit, then you'll recognize the spirit in others. It's all a mirror effect. The human experience is one of individualized free will, so everyone is simply awakening to their true nature at their own pace and through their own free will. As such, what you have control in is your own growth. When you're enlightened, then you will also become a beacon of light that will serve others to see the light within themselves. All it takes is one light in the darkness to brighten the environment. Be the light to remind everyone that they too are the light. We're all one. All limitations are self-imposed, which includes believing in your own disharmonious thought patterns and narratives. What you are, in essence, is the awareness of everything, not the mind that is thinking. This can be challenging when consciousness hasn't been established beyond the egoic mind, as the immersion inside of it can feel very real. An example are bodily sensations, particularly painful ones. You're not the sensation itself, but the one that's aware of it. So it may seem the sensation is happening to you, but it's merely something that you're aware of. Rest on pure awareness to recognize that this is the real you or true self. See the distinction between the egoic mind identity and what you actually are. As a reminder, fear is the absence of a divine connection. The aspect that's blocking it is the ego. When you're operating as your true self, all fears dissolve. Be in this world, but not of this world. The one that wants to escape isn't the same one that will exit. That's the one that will shed upon leaving. What you are is the one that entered the reality, is aware of the experience, and will transition into another dimension. You're immortal and eternal. Recognize that self to reconnect with your infinite potential. Have dominion over the egoic mind to not get immersed by it. Embody your higher self, fearless, compassionate, and unconditional. Pay attention to the subtle nuances of your energy. Having expectations is binding your energy to the very frequency that you're ascending from. Part of trust is not to be reactive, which includes the outcome. When an expectation is placed, any outcome that was not expected is now triggering a reaction. To not react is to not expect and keep things open-ended. This is connecting to the infinity of possibilities rather than the limitations of the finite. Remind yourself that every moment is an opportunity to exercise your ability to connect with the infinity, so you're not being reactive to the finite. The more you're connected to the infinity, the more you're operating as your higher self, instead of the perceived limitations of the lower egoic mind. You are the higher power, which is unlimited and infinite. The meditative state is your true state of being, which resonates at a higher frequency. Introducing lower frequencies can interfere with your natural state, thus distorting the feeling of your presence. Go out in nature, and you may feel more in harmony. Then go in a dense city, and may feel heavy. Energy is everywhere, and you're either in alignment with your natural frequency or out of alignment. Return to your unconditioned state prior to the ego forming and creating the perceptions of limitations. Remember how you were as a young child, as that's closer to the soul's nature, before being conditioned by the earthly world. We were free, curious, and full of joy because we were simply experiencing the moment without any judgments. Return to your childlike nature to regain your sovereignty. Identifying with a past will ensure history will repeat itself. To grow from any past identification is to no longer be that same version that acted out that way. Identification equals attachment. Being attached to energy that doesn't serve you will keep your energy anchored down, so to free yourself is to no longer identify with that energy and recognize what you are at the core to ascend from it. Who is the I that made the mistake? If you're no longer that I by growing in consciousness, then what does it serve you to identify with it? To complete the transformation is to dissolve the false self. A butterfly can't fly if it's still clinging onto being a caterpillar in a cocoon. The old version has to die to be reborn into a new. Holding on to that version shows untapped wisdom, as if you've truly grown from it. Then any disharmonious feelings would cease. Forgive, for the I in that moment didn't know remember. How can you shame for not knowing any better in that particular moment for which was realized later? It's like shaming for being blind or asleep, and then seeing and waking up. If you're seeing or awake now, then old I is essentially dead, and the current I right now is alive. You're never anywhere, but right here, right now, and it's the identification or attachment with a past identity that's being layered into this present moment. Recognize the now to distinguish various versions of the I within the course of the human experience, which includes transcending the need to identify with an I altogether. It's the fundamental question, what am I? Not a who, but a what. The who is perpetuating the form or the I. Realize what you are beyond the physical form to return to your true nature, and the egoic I will naturally dissolve. Love is simply an aspect of being what you really are. Loving yourself regardless of where you're at in the process of knowing yourself is unconditional love. Allow yourself to be your current state. You're never ahead nor behind. Where you're at is just where you're currently at. Growth is perpetual, so you're simply growing at your own pace, through your own free will. Recognize your greater evolutionary path to see you're perfectly fine growing according to your unique path. An unconscious reaction to another unconscious reaction is a mirror effect. Recognize that you have the power in how you respond to any given event to remain in a self-empowered state. Your power is taken away from you when you give it away by reacting. Compassion is a natural aspect of being conscious. You can choose to love because you're not taking anything personal and can see the bigger picture. It's like trying to put out a fire with more fire. By being water, the fire will be put out rather than growing. Be the water to fire by recognizing your own state of being during interactions. So, be calm, composed, coherent, conscious, connected, constantly. A lot of things happening in bunches is sometimes a sign of being fast-tracked into transformation and change. It's like if you're going through the daily motions, then that will lead to stagnancy. So if you're having different experiences regularly, it's forcing you to make adjustments to break the pattern of being in a loop. If you resist changing, then the frequency of things occurring will increase. It's all in preparation to resonate with the universal energy field. As the collective consciousness expands, and you're part of the collective, then being in alignment with it will ensure less complications with the new energy. You're the awareness of everything, which includes bodily sensations, thoughts, and emotions. It's like being the sun to the earth. Whatever happens on earth, you remain untouched as you're just observing it. Operating at body consciousness will make you perceive something is happening to you due to the immersion. But when you operate at your higher self's consciousness, you're simply observing what's happening. The human experience is happening for you to observe rather than to you. What you are is connected to a physical body and mind, but are neither. You're the conscious sentience that's aware and observing, that can send commands to the mind to animate the body. This can be realized through regular meditations and practicing mindfulness. You're essentially experiencing a reality, but aren't actually in the reality itself, like wearing a VR headset. The immersive nature can make you perceive the virtual world as real, but what you are is the one that's wearing the headset and playing the game. If you're constantly trying to become, then you will never be. To integrate is to be here now, as it's the only moment you're ever experiencing. Holding on to a past is another thought which takes you away from the present. So if you're trying to find a practical reason to let go, remind yourself of the actual moment that's being experienced, the here and now. All past and future are mental machinations, which are a byproduct of the egoic mind. The real you is eternal and boundless, and healing naturally activates when you're being your true self, which is being present perpetually. Ego is trying to be something you're not. Confidence is just being your authentic self. Are you trying or being? Trying is effort. Being is effortless. If you need to think you need be a certain image or character, then there's effort in fitting into what you think you should be. Pure beingness requires no effort, as there's no fear or worry to be what you already are. To be your true self is to be present, rather than having a thought of what you think you are. Presence is confidence. Any thought is just coming from the ego. So it's not thinking of presence or thinking to be present, but to actually be present. It's like walking. Are you thinking about walking or simply walking? The confidence stems from being able to do it, and doubt is having a thought of not being able to do it. To be or do is to know. So in order to be confident is to know thyself. Recognize what you are at the core beyond a name, body, image or personality, which are all egoic identifications. What remains when all of these dissolve is the true self. The egoic mind identity are all the conditioned layers of what you think you are, while the real self is buried underneath prior to adding the layers from this human experience. Return to your unconditioned nature, and confidence stems from just being your authentic self. It's a pure state of being, rather than a conditioned state of thinking. Your reality is created by what you believe is real and true. So you're essentially superimposing your intention and desire into the here and now to make it one cohesive experience. Know that it's already in play right now. Expecting or wanting is perpetuating that it's not already here. It's your mindset that you're creating for yourself to experience rather than react to physical sensory perceptions. Sustain the mindset, and the physical manifestation will follow. The key is to not get caught up in the process of physical manifestations with instant gratifications, as it takes time to develop, much like ordering something online and waiting for the package to be delivered. The order is on the way, so be patient and know the package is yours and hasn't been delivered yet. Having doubts is cancelling the delivery, as the frequency of the energy is lower. So it's your ability to remain in high frequency that will inevitably lead to the physical manifestation. It's the relaxed state of being that manifests rather than being anxious. As above, so below. The intention and desire are a projection of higher consciousness, and the physicality is the last step in the process.